folks, as Cammie mentioned, I'm the director of the State Sierra Club chapter for 2 years now, I guess. It's been 2 years this month. Before that, for about 12 years, I was working for Sierra Club on their national staff, but based in Little Rock. So we've been building something here for the last couple of years. We've never had a chapter staffer before, a chapter director before. So it's kind of presented some new challenges and maybe some new opportunities as well. And so one of the things we're doing over the first quarter of 2016 is holding a series of these kind of events around the state, getting to know our members, getting to know some new members, maybe raising some money. So if you're feeling particularly generous tonight, that basket over there would love you. You need to tuck some stuff in it. But we are focusing more on some state issues. Now, the stuff that I've been doing for the last 12 years before state director was really doing some of the Sierra Club's national programs, but here and in some other 7 states. On coal, on clean energy, on federal judicial nominations, remember that way back then, during the first part of George W. Bush's administration. A lot of varied national stuff. But now we can focus on Arkansas, which is a great thing for me. I haven't had to travel nearly as much. I've got a couple of kids that I see a lot more. And this is my home. I'm from Gravel Ridge, Arkansas, and it's nice to be able to concentrate on doing that. So I want to talk to you about a couple of things that we are doing right now and see if you can be of help. If there's something that you're interested in. So I was just talking to Rob a little bit ago about some things that we did yesterday down in Little Rock, having to do with coal and clean energy. Some of you guys who've been in the club for a little while or been paying attention for the last 7 or 8 years know that that's really been a big issue in Arkansas. I didn't know until I started doing this kind of work that our tiny little state of Arkansas was so powered by coal burning electricity. I didn't know where our power came from, to tell you the truth, back in the early 2000s. A state this size with less than 3 million people, we now have 5 coal-fired power plants in this state. It's a gigantic problem. It is the dirtiest fuel you could possibly burn to generate electricity. So I was part of the Sierra Club's National Beyond Coal campaign, one of the first regional directors, and they told me, Rob, that when they hired me, they said, we're going to give you 10 states, we're going to hire 4 other guys too. They ended up hiring 3 of us, and I had 26 states for a few years. So that was not sustainable, for sure. But the goal of that campaign was really to get us to change the way that we generate electricity in this country. So as I mentioned, coal is the single dirtiest fuel you can burn. It destroys communities when you mine it. It destroys communities when you burn it. It destroys communities when you're talking about how do you deal with the coal ash that comes along after burning. So what Sierra Club did nationally was a few things. One, try to stop new coal-fired power plants from being built. We've been very successful in that nationally. About 200 of those coal-fired power plants that were proposed did not happen. So that's gigantic, right? Second part was trying to get retirement dates for the coal-fired power plants that do exist. There are about 530 of them throughout the country. Most people don't know that, and I didn't know that, but they're hidden back. You don't really see them all the time. Since January 2010, we have about 230 of those plants that have announced their retirement dates. So what does this mean for a place like Arkansas? You're stopping coal-fired power plants from being built. You are putting retirement dates on existing coal-fired power plants. It means an opportunity. And this is an opportunity for us to really do great things for Arkansas. So what we were doing yesterday was focusing on 2 gigantic Entergy coal-fired power plants in Arkansas. One is in Redfield, it's called White Bluff Plant. One is in Newark, which is the Independence Plant. Both of these are Entergy plants. They're 1,700 megawatts. They're old, early 80s. They're nearing the end of their useful lifespan. And so for the last 7 years, Sierra Club has been working on trying to shut these plants down through local campaigns, through supporting EPA rules that tighten up rules on mercury, rules on carbon dioxide, rules on sulfur dioxide, and so forth. All these things have been happening, and just this past summer, Entergy announced, after 7 years of us working on this, that they were going to retire the White Bluff plant. Right? They've given us a date. It's an exciting thing. I'm excited about that. We're haggling over the date, but there was a significant first step that they said we're going to shut this thing down. We're also trying to shut down the Independence plant right now. So yesterday we released a study, a report that Sierra Club put together, a plan to go forward. How can we shut down White Bluff and Independence? How can we do it in a way that makes sense? And how can we do it in a way that generates a lot of new jobs and a lot of renewable energy? And so we had a great press conference yesterday. We released this report. And so we're at the table with Entergy. We've been talking with them for months. And I don't want to overstate this, but the reality is that we are at the table with Entergy talking about when they're shutting this stuff down, not if anymore. So this is a big deal.
For both?
Yes. Well, Independence is a little bit, they're still hanging on to that one, but I think we've just about got them. Because we had to sue the EPA to force them to come up with a plan to reduce regional haze. We won our lawsuit, and now by August 31st, that plan is going to be finalized. The draft plan contemplates them having to do about $1 billion worth of retrofits on Independence. I don't think they're going to do that. And if they do, who pays for it? You and everybody else, right? So we've got that happening. There's significant things that are happening. All we've been trying to do, though, for the last 10 years is not just say no to coal plants and not just say no to existing coal plants. We're trying to create kind of a space in the energy market, trying to create space where clean energy can grow. Right? You guys who are environmentalists, you know that you get tagged a lot of times with, hey, you guys are against everything, right? You're against nuclear, you're against gas, you're against coal, all that kind of stuff. Let's talk about something that we can be for. This is an exciting thing for me now to be, because this is next month I've been here for 13 years. Okay? Finally, we're talking about things that we can be for. It's exciting. And so what I'm proposing and what I want to identify with your help is really doing something significant in 2 or 3 Arkansas cities that makes sense to do it. I think Fayetteville makes sense to do it. And we're in the early stages of talking about this, but I want to get your opinions on this kind of stuff. What if Fayetteville, or North Little Rock, or Little Rock, or Bentonville, or Eureka Springs, what if they said, we want to go 100% clean energy by X date? What if we made that pledge that we were going to do that? What would that do for a city the size of Fayetteville, or Little Rock, or Bentonville? It's an opportunity for us here to really be a progressive city nationally. It's an opportunity for us to be creative, and I don't want to get too dramatic about this kind of stuff, but it's really an opportunity to build community. Community is not really just about where we live, is it? I'm envisioning a situation where we're at the table with our mayors, our city council members, our environmental groups, our chambers of commerce, our businesses, and we're figuring out how do we do this. Every city is going to be a little bit different. North Little Rock, for instance, has a city-owned utility. That's a different kind of situation. They can make the decision to do it. Fayetteville's a little more complicated, Little Rock's a little more complicated. But we've got a lot of creative minds. And I want us to figure out 2 things. One, how can we decide, or how can we have our decision makers decide that this is a goal that they want to pursue, right? And then we start a process. We start a process for, maybe it's a 6-year process, maybe it's an 8-year process, maybe it's a 10-year process, but we, as a group and as a community, collectively decide, we want this for our community. We want to be solar powered, we want to be wind powered, we don't want to be coal powered anymore. And try to imagine how proud you would be of your community if this happens. There's a lot of people who are going to say this can't happen, but I will tell you that this city, what's the population of Fayetteville?
80,000.
All right. That's the right man.
The person to ask.
Maybe a little more.
I just threw it out there and picked it up. Sorry. Do you know what city just in the last couple of months said that they wanted to do this? San Diego. Okay? And it's not the only city. There are cities around this country that are making this pledge. This is part of the Sierra Club's Ready for 100 campaign. We're testing this out. And the idea is that we want to find 100 cities, 100 churches, 100 schools, 100 places of business that say, yes, we're going to do this. We want to do clean energy. I know that if Fayetteville does this, or Little Rock does this, or North Little Rock does this, that's going to be one of those things where when we're successful, other cities in the state are going to say, we can do this too. You know, that theory of just kind of letting 1,000 flowers bloom, this doesn't have to be Sierra Club led in every community in the state, but it could really be the start of something gigantic. As I said, I've been doing this for almost 13 years now. And when I first started, this was the 2003, which is the first term of George W. Bush. And I was down there lobbying at the state capitol. It's not a fun thing to do, right? But about half the people would say, oh, Sierra Club, what's that? And the other half would say, oh, where are your horns? Or why aren't you hugging a tree? They didn't take us seriously. They take us seriously now. And when I talk about global warming or I talk about climate change in 2003, you kind of get laughed out of the room. Nobody's laughing anymore. It's real, right? And when you talked about green jobs and green energy in 2003, nobody took you seriously in Arkansas. That was something that I heard a lot of. It was like state after state around us was building wind farms, building solar energy. And I heard utilities saying, that's great for those states. It wouldn't work in Arkansas, or it wouldn't work in the Southeast. We're different than that, right? So forever, we have never had that. In the last year, there have been 4 utility-scale solar projects proposed for Arkansas. right? So this is not a pipe dream anymore. This is not a Sierra Club dream anymore. This is not just the hippies dreaming anymore, right? This is about people who really know how to do this, making it make sense. And I'll tell you that our two biggest foes for years on fighting coal, Entergy, and the Arkansas Electric Cooperatives, each one of those are building a solar farm now in Arkansas. Okay? So the times are really changing here. It's not changing just by accident. It's changing because a lot of citizens cared. A lot of people really put a lot of time into this over the years. And we convince people that you can do this in a way that affects the environment positively, your health positively, and also people can actually make some money off this. It's a good economic development tool. So what I'm going to be wanting to talk to everybody about, if you want to be part of this campaign, is what can you bring to the table? How can you help us convince people of this message? In the South, unfortunately, a lot of times it's not just about health or the environment, it's about economic development. The good news is we have all of those bases covered. You know, in the state of Arkansas, we already have hundreds and hundreds of clean energy jobs. People making solar panels, people making windmills and turbines and things like that. This is getting bigger and bigger, and the more that we shut down these coal plants, and the more that we build this clean energy future, the more it's going to really change Arkansas. So, this conversation is just beginning about how to change Arkansas cities to clean energy. I'd like to ask you if you think it's something that, A, you think is possible up here, and B, if it's something you want to do up here. Because I can't think of a better place in Arkansas to start than Fayetteville, Arkansas. Happy to hear any thoughts on that. Everybody's wheels are turning.
Well, I mean, what were we ranked in the, what was it, number 5 or 7 or something like the best place to start a new business in the nation?
Number 3.
Number 3. Sorry.
The mayor is here.
Yeah, I mean,
It's the last word, right?
that's like you said. Your audience is pitching it as jobs, you know, too. And if those other things fall in, then that's great. But I just don't see how you can say no to that if it's framed in the right way.
Right.
A lot of people, I think, would accept it.
Yeah, I think we've got an opportunity to build some new partnerships and new allies that aren't with us on everything that we try to do, but they'll be with us on something like this.
Another thing is we're in the middle of our economic development plan, and we already know with our current relationship with the chamber who's managing our economic development that they keep saying they want clean and green jobs,
Okay.
right? So it's already been identified even by the chamber that's not always, wait, I don't want to, our chamber has said that, that's all I'm going to say. It's been said, it's been repeated, it's in the conversation. I mean, we do have a little bit of a challenge with 2 different electric companies in our municipality, and we don't own our municipality. But at the same time, if you have a resolution, like we've passed a resolution for 80% of diversion of our solid waste, and people are saying that's impossible, but if you don't have a goal, you can't move forward, and we're having consultants saying these are possibilities. So it would just make sense to move forward with some type of a resolution of intent of support to keep the conversation in the forefront. And this, I think it's especially timely with our economic development plan right now being developed. What do you think, Mayor?
I think you're spot. I think you're right on.
And it'll be interesting to see if this comes up as a topic. And I think it will, just because of the nature of our community and the data that they're gathering that they'll be presenting with us.
Well,
So it could be timely.
Yeah, well, good. That's good news, right? It's good. Timely is better than untimely. I was telling the mayor a little bit ago that as much as I want something to happen tomorrow, you know, I want coal plants shut down tomorrow, I want clean energy tomorrow. We come across as a lot more realistic if we understand that that doesn't happen, right? We can't just flip the switches tomorrow. But we set goals and we set up a plan. You know, maybe it's a 6 or 8 or 10-year plan, but it's a great opportunity for us to really think this thing through and do it the right way, and have a lot of buy-in from the very beginning from all the stakeholders, right? Not just the environmentalists, not just a few of the office holders, but everybody who has a stake in this to figure out how to do this the right way. I think by the end of this process, or even as this process goes on, this is really going to strengthen some ties that can really help us with projects down the road that are completely unrelated to this. You know, just by building relationships with people that we think are the bad guys and the people who think we're the bad guys, right?
Well,
So,
what's the relationship with AEP SWEPCO and their forward-thinking model? Because I don't have.
the relationship between us and AEP SWIFTCO?
Well, the vision of clean energy.
Um, they,
We do have the cooperative here, and I kind of understand what they're moving forward, and
they are.
they're talking about it, but I don't know about AEP.
Yeah, I had coffee yesterday with the head guy of the Arkansas Electric Cooperatives, Dwayne Hyland. And they have been pretty against us on a lot of things for a lot of years. They are actually 35% owner of both White Bluff and Independence.
Right.
And it was a very good conversation, and it was not get out of my office kind of conversation. It was one of those, how do we do this? How do we do it? And these are folks that are building a solar farm now. They've imported a lot of wind power from Oklahoma now. Energy and the co-ops have changed a lot in the last 2 years, for sure. The AEP SWIFTCO has actually done quite a bit more progressive stuff than you would have thought. You know, we fought them for years on the Turk plant down in southwest Arkansas. We didn't make a lot of good friends there, but in just their last integrated resource planning cycles, they've been projecting a lot more wind, a lot less coal. A lot more wind, a lot less coal, solar. So I think they're starting to see the light. Are they starting to see the light for the right reasons that we care about? Maybe not, but I don't care, right? I always want people to do the right thing for the right reasons, but in the end, I just want them to do the right thing, right? And so we're getting there. So we'd have to bring them to the table. You know, I think a lot of your power here is probably from the Flint Creek plant,
It is.
right? That plant is reaching at the end of its useful
I
life.
know that.
It's 1978, if I'm not mistaken. So that's going to be part of the conversation as well, for sure. We all want to bring them to the table. Is this something we can do?
Well, how would it work? I mean, does this involve establishing a municipal utility? How are we talking about carbon credits? How do you get there?
That's the nut question right there, because every city's different, and your power mix is different, and what's politically possible is different. So that's what I want to have the conversation to figure out. I was telling the mayor a while ago, you can do something as simple as just changing who you write the check to, right? We're just going to buy energy credits and call it a wash. Or you can do something maybe a little more meaningful and a little more difficult, where your fleet goes haul electric vehicles and you build your own solar plant, or you do an aggressive energy efficiency program. I mean, there's a lot of great things you can do. I think from the very start, what our key here in this community or any other community is figuring out what the definition of clean energy is, or 100% clean energy is for this community, and how far can you go, right? So I'm not trying to not answer your question, Keith. I'm trying to say that it's going to depend on what this community wants and what is possible here. And so I don't at all want to leave you with the impression that I have all the answers for Fayetteville, Arkansas. Right?
Damn it, why are you here?
I have all the questions for Fayetteville, Arkansas. But what I do want to do is start the conversation and figure out, is this something we want to do? Is this something that we can do? And if so, how can we do it? And if at the end of at the first end of this process, what I really would love to see is the city council and the mayor and other folks saying, just like you're talking about, Mark, you know, we want to commit to moving Fayetteville 100% clean energy by this date. And then we figure out how we're going to get there.
Glenn, where are some good templates that City of Fayetteville can look at for
Yeah.
ideas and examples?
San Diego's the first one that comes to mind. You know, it's a different size city, of course. What I would want to do is, the starting place that I've got is the folks that are kind of running this campaign nationally for the Sierra Club have some initial things to consider, you know, and so I want to get them on the phone with whoever wants to be involved here, right? Whether the mayor and the city council and other folks, and it's just kind of start that conversation. But it's not reinventing the wheel in one sense, because some cities are doing it, but it is inventing the wheel in the sense that it's never been done in Fayetteville. And so we have a lot of creative ways to do it. I know people in this room have stuff probably that we've never even thought of as well, because this is a almost learn as you go kind of thing. We're writing the user's manual as we're building the campaign, because it matters, right? This matters for terms of climate change. It matters for terms of health for our kids, our grandkids. It matters in terms of just the environment here and our health. So we can get the ball rolling. We're going to make some mistakes. Let's just be clear about that. We're going to make some mistakes. But the biggest mistake, I think, would not be trying at all.
Well, and it seems to me that infrastructure wise, there's already, look at the Greenway. You know, I mean, there's already possibilities out there to link into and make it happen.
Think about this city, you know, and what an important role the university plays in this community. How do we tie the university into this? How do
Well, they
we?
use a lot of energy.
They use a lot of energy, that's for sure. But
Useless.
you know, yeah. But think about like when the church plant was being built. There's a community college down in Hope, and they put together a program to train people on how to work at coal plants. You know, and I was like, oh, you know. But how do we fold into whatever the university is actually doing now, or maybe they create a different program, you know, on energy use, on sustainability. I know some things are already being done, right? But it seems to me that the university would be a natural partner on something like this.
Well, it's a state institution, so regardless what Fayetteville thinks, we always know that we're dealing with Little Rock.
Yeah, right, always, right? And so we'll be dealing with Little Rock too. And
That's the reality that we're faced, right? That's what we're faced with.
so we have to convince the legislature and the governor that this makes a lot of economic sense more than anything else, I think. Right? This create a lot of jobs for Northwest Arkansas. That's how you get these guys up here on board, right? Your reps and your senate.
Economic development.
Yeah. So
The university actually has a commitment to be 100% renewable energy by 2040.
okay, I remember seeing that. Yeah.
Yeah. So we've got some hefty goals that aren't being executed that well, but they're goals, as they were saying earlier. So it's a part of the conversation.
And the university's doing a good job of accepting the athletics.
Right.
So why don't we set the city goal at 2025 and shame the university into cutting their goal and moving their goal on up, right?
Yeah, they recently installed a natural gas turbine at the facilities plant on campus, and it's helped really increase their efficiency in terms of like energy use and less waste. But I mean, it's not really gonna. It's still natural gas, right?
Right.
So it's not gonna get you to that 100% goal, but they are making progress.
Yeah. What were they powering with?
I think they were just buying power from like AEP and
Yeah,
stuff,
right.
and it's a coal-fired plant.
That's right.
But I think one of the things that they did, and I took a tour of it last week, this like combined heat turbine, their efficiency went from 30% to 85%. So that's a huge jump
Yeah. So
in terms of energy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Right. There's a lot of pieces of the puzzle here, right?
Yeah.
If we're talking about, like I'm talking, these two coal plants that we're trying to replace, there's 1,700 megawatts of energy each. That's a lot of energy for Arkansas, right? They're not running at full capacity all the time, but still, how do we replace that power? We're proposing to replace it with a mix of solar and wind, but also largely really aggressive energy efficiency work. You know, that's the thing that we have to do. That's the cheapest form of energy you can make, right? The one you never have to produce if you're just saving energy. So there's a lot of pieces of the puzzle is what I'm trying to get at for the campus, for Fayetteville, for the state, for the nation. I'm not going to be able to walk in with just a template or a plan in a can and say this is how your city does it. So we have to figure this out, but we can be creative about it.
It seems like to me too, I don't know, San Diego, are they looking at more switching sources to everything that's green, or are they talking more about just saving the energy in the first place? Is it a mix?
Yeah, it's definitely a mix, right?
Okay.
You know, over the years, California's been a really interesting place to work. They've gone to not having any coal plants at all, but they were importing a lot of energy from states that did have coal-fired power plants. Then the city of Los Angeles said, no, we're not going to do that anymore. And then states in the Pacific Northwest said, we're not going to do that anymore. So it's sort of like this infectious thing that we were talking about once somebody sees that it can be done, others figure it out too, and they get on the bandwagon. So San Diego has got a lot of creative ways to do it. Los Angeles has a lot of creative ways to do it. Smaller cities have a lot of creative ways to do it. But we're going to figure out how to do it for here, if everybody wants it. I'm not from here. I'm not coming to tell Fayetteville how they have to do it. But if it's something that we want to do in this room, I think this is the greatest place to start.
Well, and it seems to me that, you know, I teach kids about the 3 R's all the time, and it's a lot easier to teach kids than it is adults. I'll say that. But that's a conversation that needs to happen. Even if there's a goal set and we say we want to get to this point, it doesn't have to be an all or nothing thing. But getting a conversation going, that's important.
Sure.
Because it's a big part of our footprint.
It is.
You know, and if we want to, this is just a personal thing. If we want to take that seriously, we've got to start having a conversation. regardless of how many, I mean, we set the goal's there by 2030 or 2040 or whatever, but you've got to have momentum to get there, and that has to start, you know?
Yeah, and who better to start it than, say, the Sierra Club? Right? So, I'm not gonna spend the whole night talking at you and all this kind of stuff. I think Tammy still says there's plenty to eat back there, but I'll hang around if we want to talk any more about this. This is not the last conversation we're gonna have on it, but I want to thank again Caleb and Cammie and Veronica for hosting the party and giving me a chance to visit with you about what I think is going to be a really exciting thing in different parts of the state. So thanks for listening. Now eat stuff.
Yeah, we're not kicking anybody out, so if you stay and visit or visit, good conversations you're welcome to.
I'll get in touch in the next week or so.
Oh, right, yes. It's spring already. It's coming up. We talked about that a while back.
You said a date, and I don't remember what it was.
Yeah, I mean, that's, people, you know, they need something to look forward to.
I know, I'm feeling very inspired.
And you know, I hear people, I'm saying,
Yes, I'm positive. It's really hard to get every intention of making sure that no one come here for a reason.
yeah.
Write a resolution, but I want to be sure that whatever goals we set are
So quick, look at all that.
Well, and yeah, because if you set this and it's not realistic, and